go on Canvas and look at the video if I go too fast. All right, we're going to start by just reviewing for one moment the previous day. We have talked about vertical reflections and horizontal reflections. That's when we have a negative sign somewhere in the equation. If it's outside of the function, that's going to be vertical. If it's inside of the function, it'll be horizontal. And remember, a vertical reflection goes up and down, but what axis does it actually flip over? That's the x-axis. So when we have a vertical reflection, we write it as reflect in the x-axis. And I don't know if we wrote that. I know we wrote it in the example 3 yesterday, but just a reminder. That's how we write it. So you have to know which axis it flips over. So vertical, actually you write the word x-axis in it and it gets confusing. But it's because it's going up and down over that x-axis. So we did that yesterday. And then the previous day, we had been talking about translation. So this is from our previous notes. So you'll need all your notes when you do your homework. So our previous day, we were talking about if we add or subtract outside of the function, it's a vertical translation. And if it's inside of the function, then we use the opposite operation, and it's horizontal. So if it's minus, it's right. If it's plus, it's left type thing. So we've got 4 different transformations. We talked about 5. 1, 2, 3, 6. 6 of them. This is number 7. So 7 and 8. Today we're going to talk about vertical stretches and vertical strengths. And we're going to do this kinesthetically. Do you know what kinesthetically means? It means you're going to actually physically do it with your body. Okay. So what we're going to do for anybody watching the video is we're going to pretend that our arms are an absolute value, okay? So I need everybody, everybody make an absolute value with your arms. So everybody do it so nobody looks silly because everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. That's not an absolute value. Thank you. Everybody's doing it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to vertically stretch your arms, okay? But I'm not going to come to everybody, so I'm going to do this to Isi, and you all are going to pretend that you're Isi, and when I vertically stretch your arms, you guys do it too, okay? Ready? You ready? Can you handle it? I'm going to vertically stretch your arms. Stretch. What happens when I stretch your arms? It's going to get skinnier. You see how I'm like, skinny? You see that? Lighter. Okay. And now I'm going to stretch your arms. If I'm pulling them vertically, they're going to go skinnier. All right? Shake it out. So here's my new arms. New arms. Okay, that's a vertical stretch. Now we're going to do a vertical shrink. All right? So we're going to start with absolute value again. Everybody give me an absolute value. Give me an absolute value. Then I'm going to vertically shrink them. So I'm going to come over to all of you and I'm going to push your arms down. I'm vertically shrinking them. What's happening to your V? If I push your arms down, it's getting wider. Okay? So a vertical shrink is going to make it wider. That's what all that picture is about right there. Now, to have a vertical stretch or shrink, we are multiplying a number by the fraction. Multiply a number by the fraction. Or not fraction, function. Oops. We're multiplying a number by the function. That's what this is. Multiply a number by the function. If that number is bigger than 1, if that number is greater than 1, that is a stretch. If that number is greater than 1, it will stretch. If that number is in between 0 and 1, it will shrink. So your only options for stretches or shrinks is a number bigger than 1 or between 0 and 1. So my only options for this number in front are greater than 1 or between 0 and 1. So what if I have something like -3? You see how that does not fit greater than 1 and it does not fit between 0 and 1. You see that?
Yes.
It's because there's two transformations here. The negative means reflect in the x-axis. And then the 3 by itself is what you look for the vertical stretch or shrink. So would 3 be a stretch or a shrink? Is it greater than 1 or between 0 and 1? It's greater. So this would be a vertical stretch. And you would write vertical stretch factor of 3. So we say what you're multiplying by. So when you have a negative number, it's actually two transformations. If you just have a positive number, it will just be the stretch or shrink. Okay? When you're ready to go on, flip the page over so I know I can go. So part of your assignment is going to look like this. We're going to have a function given to us, f of x equals 2 absolute value of x. And the first thing we want to do is figure out what the parent function is. So what family does this one belong to? Absolute value. So what's the parent function? F of x equals what? Absolute value of x. And then what you want to do is you want to go back to this page. Yours is filled in. I have one filled in somewhere. But you want to use those points from absolute value, which I'm just going to write up there. But you're in your homework, you're going to have to copy over from this chart, unless you have it memorized. This is the parent function points. -2, 2. -1, 1. 0, 1. 1, 1. 2, 2. Nope, not 0, 1. I'm not even thinking. There we go. 0, 0. I'll check. So that's parent function. Then I'm going to graph the parent function. I'm going to go over here and go graph these points. And then I'm going to dash the parent function. So I'm going to use my straight edge. And this should be an absolute value, so it's looking like a V. There we go. So that's the parent function. Then we have to do the new function. So the new function has a 2 outside. What operation is that with the 2 and the absolute value? What operation? It's multiplication. So if it's multiplication, then it's going to be a stretch or a shrink. So is the number 2 greater than 1 or between 0 and 1? It's greater than 1, so we write vertical stretch factor of 3. No, 2. Sorry. Factor of 2. Multiplying by 2. And since it is multiplying by 2, that's what's going to happen in this column. We're going to write f of x equals 2 absolute value of x. And you're just going to take all of your middle column and multiply each number by 2. And that'll give you this bar column. And then you don't need the middle column anymore. So now what we're going to graph is a new absolute value graph. It's going to be the ordered pair of -2, 4, -1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 4. That's our new absolute value graph we're going to graph. And that's how you're going to go through those. So you do everything with the parent function, then you're going to go back and do it with the new function. Let's try one more. We'll try letter B together. So the first thing you need to do for the next example is figure out what the parent function is. What family is f of x equals 1 half x squared? You were out of the room. What? What is it? Quadratic. So for quadratic, we write the parent function f of x equals x squared. And then we'll go from that other set of notes from 2 days ago, and you're going to get your points, which will be -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and then 4, 1, 0, 4, nope, 0, 1, 4. Oh my gosh. There we go. And then we'll graph those. And what shape does quadratic look like? A U. So when you connect them, don't make them look like a V. V as in a vectorial. Or as in absolute value. So then we have all of the parent function done. We need to do the transformation. So 1 half is what operation with x squared? What's next to it, it means multiply, right? So if we're multiplying, that is a stretch or a shrink. So we need to know, is this number, 1 half, is that greater than 1 or between 0 and 1? Between. So this is going to be a vertical shrink factor of 1 half. So I will multiply all of my parent function values by 1 half. So half of 4 is 2. Half of 1 is half. 0, 0. Half, 2. Then you do not need the middle column anymore. We have to graph those x's with the new y's. And it should be wider because it's getting pushed down, shrinking vertically. Okay. Then for time purposes, I'm going to skip the student practices. I'll fill them out before I upload the notes to Canvas. So if you want to go back and like try the student practice and see that you understand it, you want more notes, I'll fill them out. It's just not going to be on this video. I want to make sure that we get through the graphing calculator stuff. So this says we're going to use the graphing calculator to graph the parent function and the function below, and we're going to describe the transformation. So what I need you to do is, if you do not have a graphing calculator, sit next to somebody who does, and you'll just get to look over their shoulder. And then at home, if yours is at home, you can play this video and actually go through the steps yourself. Unless you're really good at watching other people and remembering, which I'm not. But, you know, when you get home, if you forget, the video will be there. So I need everybody to be by somebody who has a graphing calculator. We're going to have to make friends. Each needs a friend. Okay, probably got a little bit of juice. Josiah, you sure? If you have some juice. We'll see how long you're supposed to. You need one? Can she share with you? She'll go back one and share. Who needs one? You need one? You need somebody to share with? Good. Everybody, Brian, do you need one? You're sharing? Yeah. Sharing, okay. Who else needs one? Who do you have? Can you share next? Is that okay? Can you look over yours? You guys can switch. And if yours dies, we're just have to go sit by somebody else, okay? Or you can sit up here and use it plug in. Do that as well. Do you want to do that one? Okay, some of these calculators are slightly different. You'll see, like, these are the older models. I'll have to tell you what it'll look like instead. It's not a huge difference, but just a teeny bit. Okay, what I want you to do is turn it on. And on the graphing calculator, all of the graphing buttons are at the very top. Anything that has to do with graphs is at the top. So if I'm telling you to go to y equals and you're not sure where it's located, if it has to do with graphing, it's going to be at the top. So that's the first button we're going to go to is y equals. Go ahead and click on that. Now, if I click on something and yours pops up like error, don't tell me 10 minutes later. Like, tell me right away, hold on, I can't go on, mine doesn't look like yours. So I can, like, make sure everybody's keeping up, because I cannot see what's on your little screen. And I'm not going to walk around after every single button push, did I? Do you want to just sit here plugged in? And then you can join him over here. Anyway, I'm not going to walk around after every single button push, so that we don't waste a ton of time. Okay, so what we're going to do first, this is to type in the parent function, and then we're also going to type in the new function. So what parent function do we have for this equation? What parent function? Absolute value. So we're going to type in, and I will show you how to do it, but I'm going to write it down. F of x equals absolute value of x. So that's what goes there. Do you have your paper? I'm going to write that down too. Okay, so absolute value is not only a graphing function. You sometimes calculate with absolute value, so that it's not at the top. It's going to be under the button that says math. And under math, there's lots and lots and lots of helpful things, which we don't have time to go through all of them right now, but we will get through a lot of them. So go to the math button, and it'll look like this. When you're in the math button and it looks like this, we're going to use your arrow to go over to number, NUM. If you read the very first thing, it should say absolute value, ABS, and parentheses. So you're going to choose enter. And if you have the newer calculators, it will have the absolute value. If you have the older calculators, it'll say ABS, open parentheses. Either sign, they're the exact same. The next thing we have to do is type in an X. And to get X, there's a special button. So to get X, it's this button right here that says X, T, weird symbol called theta, and a little n. So hit that button to get X. Then if you want to get out of the absolute value, if you have the newer ones, you just hit your arrow to get out of it. And if you're the older ones, you just have to close the parenthesis, and there are parenthesis buttons right here above the numbers. So it should look like this, or it says ABS and has parentheses. Now we're going to hit graph. We're going to hit the button graph. And this is where some of you might not have the same picture as me, and we'll fix it together. Like yours doesn't look right, so we'll fix that together. Yours has to be fixed. So just pause for a second. We're going to grab both of them. You're working a little bit ahead of me. Okay, so it's fixed. It doesn't look right, or you have an error. Okay, so we're going to fix that right now. Does it say something about the window? Yeah, we're going to fix that right now. Okay, all right. So now I want everybody to do this. Not everybody had a problem, and if you didn't have a problem, it's not going to change anything. But I want to show you. If you do have a problem, if your screen doesn't look like mine, everybody try this. This fixes the screen. See that zoom? You hit zoom. And then we're going to go and make this a standard window. So you just hit 6, or you can arrow 6. But you just can hit 6 as well. And that should fix all of our problems. If it didn't, then it's something else and I need to help you. It fixed your problem? It fixed your problem? Fix yours? Anybody else? Does it look different? Okay. So we all have the same graph. Now it says we're going to graph the other function on top of it. So go back to y equals, and you're going to go to y2. So we're going to have two equations in there. To graph the negative sign, it is not a subtraction sign. If you do subtraction, it won't work. Graph the negative, it's all the way at the bottom. Negative sign. And then the next thing is an absolute value, because we're typing in this equation on our paper. So again, absolute value is math. And you arrow over, and there it is, absolute value, enter. And then inside of there, we have to type x plus 5. So you're going to use the x button again, which is right here, x. And then plus 5. If you have the older calculators, you have to close the parentheses. If you have the newer ones that have the absolute value, you have the arrow to get out of it. So the older ones, make sure you close that parentheses. And then subtract 3, not negative 3, but subtract 3. If you have that typed in, hit graph and make sure it looks like mine. If it does not look like mine, then type something in correctly. So make sure it looks like mine. Will work? Yeah. You forgot the -3 in the equation, so you can subtract 3 again. So go to that equation, go all the way outside of your parentheses and click subtract. Anybody else have a problem? Okay, so now what it's asking is for us to say all the transformations from f of x equals absolute value of x to f of x equals negative absolute value x plus 5 minus 3. So we're going to go through each transformation. The negative sign is the first one. Let's talk about what the negative sign does. And by the way, you don't need this to figure it out. We're just practicing typing stuff in our calculator. You should be able to do this using our notes from before. What does it mean if there's a negative sign outside of the function? It's going to be a reflect, and then you know which axis it is because up and down means in the x-axis. So that's the first thing we'll write down. So this negative sign is a reflect in the x-axis. And then what does the plus 5 do? What does that do? Is it inside or outside of the absolute value? Is it inside the absolute value or outside the absolute value? It's inside. So inside is always horizontal. Remember, inside is horizontal. Horizontal. And anytime we have horizontal, it's the opposite operation. Yes, and then if we're not sure, we can also look at our graph. Yeah, this has moved left 5 units. So translate left 5 units is what that plus 5 is doing. And then the -3 is the third transformation. So is that on the inside or the outside of the absolute value? Outside. So if it's outside, it's vertical. What's -3 say? What's the fancy word? Translate. Translate. And if you're, again, you can look on here and see that this one is down 3 units. That point right there is down 3 units from the other one. So So translate down 3 units. Okay, let's practice on the calculator one more time. So we're going to go back to where do I input the equations? Where do I put the equations in? So y equals, we'll find that y equal, and you're going to have to just use the clear and then down and clear to get those out. Clear. And then I'm going to show you how to do squareds. So make sure if you're working ahead, you may be doing it a way longer way. I'm going to show you like the easy shortcut way of doing all this stuff. So we're going to type in the parent function first. What is the parent function for negative 4x squared? X squared. It's quadratic. We just have x squared. So that's going to be what you type in first. The x button I've showed you already is this button right here. It's next to the alpha. It has an x on it. That's where we get our x from. To get the squared, there's actually a button that says x squared. That'll put the squared part. It should say just x and then a tiny little 2 up top. Once you have that, hit graph. Make sure your graph looks like a parabola that is graphed right in the center. If that looks good, you're going to go back to y equals, and now type in negative 4x squared. Make sure it's a negative sign, and we're doing that in the second y. Negative sign 4x, and then the x squared button. And then when you hit graph, it should look like 1. And we're going to write about the transformations. How many transformations are there from x squared to get to negative x squared? How many transformations? 2. One of them is the negative sign, and then the other one is the 4. So there's going to be transformations for both of those pieces. So the negative is a reflection. So I will write reflect in the x-axis. And you can look here and you can see how it's flipped down. The second is the 4. So you have to imagine what multiplying a 4 times x squared would do. We multiply a number. What kind of thing is it? If we're multiplying a number, what is that one? Whatever today. Do today. It's either a stretch or a shrink, and then we look at the number itself. I'm multiplying by 4. So it's greater than 1. That means it's going to be a stretch. So if you think about this parabola, it was stretched vertically and it was flipped upside down. That's why it's skinnier. So this is a vertical stretch. Factor of 4. So today, for your assignment, if I can locate it. The packet that we were given yesterday, but we only did 1 to 7. I've lost my stuff, though. The packet that we had yesterday, we only did 1 to 7. We're going to finish that. And you guys have time in class to work on it, right? We have till 50? 40. Oh, till 40, because of the 10 minutes. So we have like 7 minutes to get started. That's a lot of time. So I would ask you guys, if we're getting started and you have a question, or if you did it yesterday, this one here, this one, all those little blanks, like coordinate blanks. If you have a question on the front, please ask. Because today we went over more of, what was it, when we were grading, I saw some people had stuff wrong, you had to change it. So you possibly did it wrong here as well. So if you have questions on the front, ask about it. And then if you have questions on the graphing calculator stuff, that's stuff you can work on as well right now. Okay, if you don't have a graphing calculator, you're going to have to borrow from somebody, but they are going to do their work before you get to borrow their calculator. You should not be just using somebody's calculator answers. You should learn how to type it in yourself. So you need to borrow a calculator.